Welcome in to an all-new edition of Daily Faceoff Live, streaming live on the DFO YouTube, looking for your Friday inbox questions. I'm Tyler Yaremchuk, he's Frank Seravalli, and the show is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today, use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Frank, let me start with this question. The weekend coming up, is it the best weekend of the year when it comes to NHL hockey? You have all these series smack dab in the middle, because last weekend we only had a handful of games. A bunch of series didn't start till Monday.
It's pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's among the very best that you could get. Look, I love the start of the playoffs because it kind of feels like March Madness. Like there's a little bit of everything happening at once. But I mean, this is a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, you got 3 games on tap tonight, 4 on Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, rolling all the way to that 9:30 Avs Stars game, and then another 4 going on Sunday night. So it is a jam-packed weekend of hockey, and some series could be decided over the next couple of days as well. But let's kick things off with last night's action, and maybe no win more surprising than the one in Minnesota. The Wild taking a 2-1 series lead over the Vegas Golden Knights. It's a 4-2 win. And Frank, we talked about a whole bunch of different things that were going to be X factors in this series, or paths to victory for the Minnesota Wild. One of them was Filip Gustavsson, his roller coaster regular season where he looked elite for 2 separate stretches, pretty average in the middle. He has a .922 save percentage in this series, and that save he made last night with 90 seconds to go was a massive one as well. It came right before the empty netter, but Gustafsson's been incredible in this series, and the Wild have stunned the Golden Knights through 3 games.
It's been basically the total opposite of what we might have expected. We weren't really sure what to make of the Wild heading into this series, thinking that, when Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek and their defense core are healthy, this is a good team and a tough out. But to think that we'd get to game 3 and beyond of this series and not hear a peep from Jack Eichel and the Vegas Golden Knights top stars, that's the key difference. Yeah, Gustafsson has been unbelievable, but Kaprizov has produced every night. Matt Boldy has produced every night. The top end guys for the Wild have been head and shoulders better than the Vegas Golden Knights. And that's been very surprising so far through the first 3 games. It's not just that the Wild are leading, it's the way in which it's happened. And then even think about the back end. Shea Theodore has single-handedly been responsible for significant chunks of pucks entering the Vegas Golden Knights net. How often should we expect something like that to happen? So I think it feels like the Golden Knights either took this team for granted, this matchup for granted, thinking that they're going to wade into the playoffs or dip their toe into the water ahead of what could be a long run. They were a popular and trendy Stanley Cup pick. Either that or they just weren't ready to play because the Minnesota Wild have punched them squarely in the face.
Yeah, and the physicality. I mean, we talked about Marcus Foligno and the 12 hits he had in Minnesota's Game 2 win. How about Justin Brazeau stepping up with 8 of his own in Game 3 of this series? And you mentioned the Stars, Frank. Again, a big reason why I kind of thought there was a path to Minnesota winning was the fact that they were healthy. Talk about Eriksson Ek, how good he is. But the duo of Kaprizov and Boldy have been absolutely fantastic. Boldy coming off another really strong season with 73 points, and I tweeted it yesterday. We'll see how the series plays out, but as a duo, they're top 5 in the league, are they not? Boldy and Kaprizov?
I think they've been really good. And just the way that Kaprizov has played too, just a reminder, speaking of top 10, he is a top 10 player in the world, bar none. And he proved that, I think, through the first part of the season. This is a guy that was going to be on so many Hart Trophy ballots, but when you miss half the season, that's going to cancel that out. And just a reminder for everyone to not sleep on him.
Yeah, and he is eligible for an extension come July 1st as well. So there's definitely some cash register signs going off. Maybe not in Kaprizov's head, he's dialed in on the playoffs, but his agent, I'm sure, is sitting there going, ooh-wee, that's going to be a nice chunk of money.
Draisaitl plus.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. So Minnesota is up 2-1. Game 4 of that series from the state of hockey goes on Saturday night. Frank, they were not obviously the only team to get a big win last night, but it was a dagger for the Toronto Maple Leafs in their series against the Ottawa Senators, a second straight overtime loss. And man, Senators fans who haven't been in the playoffs for 8 seasons, they are getting a lesson in what it's like to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs, because these have been a couple of heartbreaking losses.
Heartbreaking losses, but also probably a reminder if you're an Ottawa Senators fan, and Jake Sanderson said this after the game, quote, "We're right there." Now, there are no moral victories when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And by Monday's show, when we talk again, we could be talking about the Senators being swept out of the playoffs. But they controlled large chunks of game two. We're right there in game three, again forcing OT. In an alternate universe, a shot away one way or the other, we could be talking about the Sens being up 2-1 and the Toronto Maple Leafs talking about all the demons that are in their closets and under their bed. But we're not. And that's not the way the world works. And that's not anything that the Ottawa Senators can hang their hat on. But the point of this year was never to really look at this version of the Sens as a Stanley Cup contender. This was an opportunity to understand what the playoffs are like, get a taste and experience it, and take that and have that drive your summer of training to build for next season and beyond. And so that part, they're certainly learning. You either win or you learn, and got to give some major props to Anthony Stolarz, who's been outstanding in these playoffs. And, you look at this comparison here and you go, yeah, Linus Ullmark has not nearly lived up to it and has been a very poor playoff performer going back a couple years now. But Stolarz has been everything the Toronto Maple Leafs could wish for and more. And beyond that, their core four has answered all of the questions that we seemingly have had about them over the last few years. They're producing when it matters most. And that part is a hugely positive sign for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about their play in the third period and just how structured they've looked as well. Because on one hand, you'd sit there and go, whoa, they blew a lead in each of the last two periods. But when Adam Gaudette tied up the game with 5.5 minutes to go, whatever it was the Senators' first shot of the period. And last night, Brady Tkachuk ties it up, 8.5 minutes to go, first shot of the period. Like, I actually give a lot of credit to the Leafs for playing basically 15 minutes in those, or more than that, a combined 25 minutes in those two games without giving up a third period shot. So again, just another sign that, to me, it's part of the reason I had them going to the Cup final in my DFO bracket. Like, they look a little bit different.
They do, and we can say that, but it's up for them to believe it. And I feel like they do. The real test isn't going to be the first round for this team. It's not about winning one round. You don't just get to sit back and, wipe your hands and say, oh, we did it. Thank God we got to the second round. They've never made it more than 25% of the way to winning a Stanley Cup. And that's the true mark here. That's the test. Is look at the Florida Panthers. We'll talk about them in a minute, but like they're not sitting here going, oh, like I'm scared of the Toronto Maple Leafs in round two. They've been to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals. So that's going to be the real test for this team, not what's happening against the Sens.
Yeah, and Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com, is going to join us in a little bit to talk us through the first couple of games in that series. Let's go back out west, though, Frank, where the St. Louis Blues, listen, when you're down 2-0 in a series and you're back on home ice for game 3, it's not a hyperbole to say that your season is on the line. And for the Blues, it was, and they delivered. They chased Connor Hellebuyck after he allows 6 goals. They end up finding a 7th as well, and the third period offensive outburst fuels their way to a 7-2 victory. Do you look at this and go, all right, it's just one game, they were fired up being back on home ice? Or do you sit here and go, whoa, Jets only had 18 shots. Jets gave up 7 goals. Did the Blues maybe figure something out here?
I don't know if they figured something out, but I definitely have some real question marks about Connor Hellebuyck. Think about the way game 1 started, 3 goals on 10 shots. Think about last night. And it was just kind of the exclamation point for Pavel Buchnevich scoring that hat trick, and the way that he did it, basically picking Hellebuck's pocket behind the net and putting it in the empty cage. That just, I don't know what, if anything, you can draw from that other than to say that Connor Hellebuyck just doesn't look like himself. And I don't know if that's the pressure of the moment or the failures of their last few playoffs, but this is the best goalie in the world as a lot of people see it, and maybe not even NHL players, as Andrei Vasilevsky was voted best goalie in the annual player poll from the NHLPA. But that part sort of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Like, what happens with the Ted Lindsay Award vote this year? Because there were some great candidates for the Hart, but how do the players see it? Do they see Connor Hellebuyck as one of the very best? And what, if anything, can we draw from a series like this and the way that it's unfolded? I mean, the Jets are good enough to beat the Blues without Hellebuyck being a world beater, but I don't think they can go much further than that if he's not playing at a level that's commensurate to what we think he is. Like, you're not even close to league average. So that part is the biggest concern for me moving forward. It's not that I don't think that the Jets can't beat the Blues. I just think that they need to stop beating themselves.
Yeah, and I was just going to say this isn't true for a lot of teams, but there's definitely a couple of them. There's a world where the Jets win round one and their fan base does not feel good about it at all. Like if you showed that Hellebuck board and removed the record, and you showed that team sort of head-to-head board and removed the record, and you said, "Hey, Jets fans, this is how things are going to look after game 3," they'd probably be sitting there being like, "Are we about to get swept in game 4?" Like the fact that they are up 2-1 with Hellebuck's save percentage being what it is, being dominated on the special teams the way that they have been. And I know last night obviously skews a lot of those numbers, but still there's a world where the Jets finish this off in 5 and you sit at whoever and look at whoever they play in round 2 and go, they don't stand a chance.
Yeah, and look, sometimes it is hard to look at just the save percentage, but I also look at the goals going in. Like I said, the three goals on 10 shots, obviously that's going to crush your save percentage. I think they only gave up 18 in total in game 1, something like that. So your numbers are going to be smoked, but nonetheless, he just hasn't looked the same. His body language changes, and I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah. Again, we're gonna keep talking about the playoffs in a second. I guess all 4 of our topics today are about the playoffs. But Frank, the no goal call for the Winnipeg Jets stirred up some controversy online. For me, the call on the ice has to be respected. So I look at this and go, I know everyone had the freeze frame angle of the glove and go, well, look, you can basically tell that the whole glove. If it's called no goal on the ice, you need 100% proof that the puck 100% crossed the line, and I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone saw that. You can think what you think you see with this still frame that people have then frozen and say, oh, look, it looks like it crossed the line. I mean, in all actuality, it probably did. But unless you see white space between the puck and the goal line, you can't definitively rule it a goal. So I understand how they arrived at that point. I think the real disappointing part for me is we've arrived at this stage with puck and player tracking. There's a chip in that puck. There's a chip in the jerseys that every player wears in the NHL. Why we haven't gotten to a point with the technology yet where you can have sensors in the posts that can definitively say one way or the other that every edge of that puck has completely crossed the goal line, I think that's a big miss for the NHL. Now, the commissioner at the GM meetings was asked about this last month in March in Florida, and he said they're testing it and testing it again. And I get that they don't want to roll out an incomplete product, but man, we're talking about goals at the most critical time of the season that really leaves you wanting more as both a fan, a bettor, a team executive, player, whatever it might be. There's so many parts of the NHL constituency that seem to be failed by an incomplete science that I think needs to be rectified.
Another thing that it would help with, actually, that's always a big thing, is puck over glass. Did it hit the glass? Did it not? What happened? Like a chip would solve those problems, or using the data, I should say.
It's already, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's already in there. Can we just talk quickly? Because we didn't talk about the Maple Leafs and Sens shenanigans and warmups. And Pat, if you have that queued up, here's essentially what the NHL is talking about today is that Nick Cousins fired a couple pucks toward Anthony Stolarz here in warmups. Is this really going to be a thing? That's my question. I've known both these guys since they were AHL teammates together 10 years ago. They also played like on the same team as each other last year. Does anyone really think that he's attempting to injure him or it was anything more than playful? And look, I get it. Nick Cousins probably shouldn't do it, but is anyone truly bothered by this?
Wasn't there, I don't know if I'm misremembering, wasn't there a year in the Cup final where Jamal Mayers was basically just dressing and firing pucks down the ice during warmup and then not playing in a single game? Like, I don't know. Remember the Vegas-Washington final? Johnny Lazarus tweeted the video. Fleury chased Ovechkin onto his side of the ice at one point in that series during warmups. Like, the fact that people are making such a big deal out of this is ridiculous.
Yes, and I will also say, like, I understand why the league is sensitive to it. Like, I just go back to the Flyers Montreal Canadiens brawl with Ed Hospodar and Chris Chelios and all those guys involved. Like, amazing stuff, but not anything that anyone wants to see a repeat of. That said, yeah, be smarter, but like, let's put this one to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to get to Erik Erlendsson in a minute here, but quickly, Frank, want to play a little percentage game with you. Give you a couple of scenarios. You tell me the percent chances that it happens. Dallas, Colorado. The Stars, in surprising fashion, have gone up 2-1 in this series. Percent chance we see 7 games between these two sides. Because I'll be honest, after game 1, I would have said 0.
Yeah, I'm going to say something like 60%. It feels like this one is tit for tat. There hasn't been a lot of space, not a lot of ice. And I think the Avs are really regretting not finishing off the Stars in game 2 because it's totally changed the series.
Yeah, it has. The other Western series that has a pivotal game tonight is in Edmonton. Give me the percent chance that when our show starts on Monday, this series is tied. The LA Kings, just to throw a number out there, on home ice this season, obviously unbelievable. They're now 33-10 on the road this year, 17-24.
I'm going to say 30%. I'd say that, yeah, the Oilers have a pretty good shot of winning 2 against the Kings, but it's kind of like the odds on a parlay. You'd expect one of those things to happen, but both? Not easy.
Yeah. Now, one more in the East. It's a nice parlay to our big segment, but Florida's up 2-0. Washington's up 2-0. Carolina's up 2-0. Toronto's up 3-0. Percent chance every East series ends in 5 games or less.
Percent chance that every East series ends in 5 or less?
Like the Florida Tampa one is the one I think is the closest, but it's like, damn, that series is going to Florida now.
Yeah, I'll say 20%. Like I think the Leafs is a lock, the Caps or the Canes is a lock. I'm real curious to see how the Montreal Canadiens come out tonight in the Bell Center. I think they win at least one there, and that's been very close with 2 OT games or 1 OT game to start, nearly 2. Yeah, I'll give it a 20% shot. I still think somehow one way or the other, the Battle of Florida goes to 6.
Well, let's continue that conversation and get to our big segment for the day. It's the All 32, and it's brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. You can check out their large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds and mined diamonds by visiting them online at charmdiamondcenters.com. Always a pleasure to welcome Erik Erlendsson into the show from lightninginsider.com. And Erik, on a very surface level, I look at the 2 box scores from this series and go, okay, in game 1, the Lightning couldn't keep a puck out of their net. In game 2, they couldn't find the back of the net on the other end. So let's go a layer deeper here. What's kind of been plaguing the Bolts for 2 games?
Well, the first game, they were not ready to be emotionally involved against a Florida Panthers team that clearly was. I mean, that first game, first a fortunate bounce from Sam Bennett. He bunts the puck in the net, right? That's a good play, good hand-eye coordination, and it sucked the life out of the building so fast into the game. But the tone of that game changed actually right before the Lightning scored their power play goal from Jay Gensel. Matthew Tkachuk took a run at Nikita Kucherov. He earned himself a penalty for it, but it set the tone. And the Lightning just didn't have a response physically to that. And that's after that, Florida just kind of ran roughshod over them. Last night, they couldn't finish. Braden Point has a wide open chance a minute 50 into the game. Jake Gensel has an open net 52 seconds into the game. Those are 2 40-goal scorers. You figure one of them is going to finish that chance. They didn't happen. Florida got the 1 goal, and Florida can check. They are really good at defending. They don't give up space anywhere all over the ice. Their penalty kill is as aggressive as a penalty kill as I've seen. That completely took the Lightning out of their game on the power play. Lightning had 5 power play chances last night. You like their odds if they have 5 power play chances. They had 2 shots on goal in 5 power play chances for the number 5 ranked power play team during the regular season. So game 1, they weren't emotionally and physically to the level they needed to get to. And then last night, they just couldn't finish.
So Erik, you've been around this team a long time. I almost feel like, as well as John Cooper puts on a face about, hey, it doesn't matter if there's a lopsided game or not, you still end up losing. Like, he's presented it pretty positively. But what do you think the vibe check of this team is? They've been through a lot, but how do you come back after losing the first 2 games on home ice? What's your read on what the team's emotional status is now?
Especially after putting so much emphasis on getting home ice, right? Because they are a pretty good home team and they're only 500 on the road and you didn't win a home game. So that certainly is a sting that they probably expect to happen. So it's going to be a challenge going on the road. I think, though, with this team, and there's still enough veteran guys around that they understand how last night's game went. And if they finish one or two of those chances, we're having a much different conversation. That's kind of what they have to hang their hat on here, right? That they can sort of replicate in a lot of ways that type of game, because they have won in Sunrise this year. They won a game down there just after Christmas. They actually shut the Panthers out in that game in the back half of a home and home. And then a game they played in early March, Lightning actually went in there on an 8-game winning streak. And it was a 2-1 game, similar to what we saw last night. Florida caught a couple of breaks, the Lightning didn't. So they have to kind of hang their hat on the fact that they played a winning style of hockey last night, but they didn't win. These two teams are so close in the way they play, the statistics, all the numbers you look at with these two teams in the regular season, and even during their regular season meetings. Throw out the last one because Florida didn't send half their team up here late in the year. But those first 3 games, they were pretty close. And it's no surprise that, last night's game finished as a 1-goal game again. So emotionally, I think they're okay. But I'm sure what we're about to talk about here in a second is going to factor into it.
Oh, well, we can get to that, and Tyler can get to that. I just had one more in terms of the bounce back. Andrei Vasilevsky, we knew very unlikely to see a game like that again in game 2. But I was curious with how tough Ryan McDonagh's game 1 was, what would we see from him in the next one? How do you think he responded in game 2?
Well, he was better in his decision-making, right? That first goal that Florida scored happened because he made a bad read or a bad decision on a read that led to an odd man opportunity. I mean, you can't do those kind of stuff. We're not used to seeing that from McDonough. He's if there was a Norris Trophy for defensive defenseman, this guy would have won it several times through his career. Right? Like, he's that good in what he does. But he's a leader on this team. He has to be the guy that leads by example too. It can't just be your words. So I thought everybody really on the Lightning last night responded well to the loss, to the physicality. I mean, they stood up to the Panthers in a lot of ways. And, so the response, I think, was fine by everybody really on the Lightning side. And even the Vasilevsky goal, I mean, that's probably one he wants to have back, and it's unfortunate that ended up being the only one that got by him.
Let's talk about the Brandon Hagel hit. What were your initial thoughts on it? Did you think it deserved a major? And I mean, trying to guess what the Department of Player Safety is going to do is kind of a fool's game, but do you think we'll see a suspension here?
Well, he's getting a hearing. So ironically enough, the only guy that I've ever seen get a hearing and not get suspended is Tom Wilson, right? Like, that's the only guy in the last number of years that has been in this situation. So you have to figure he's getting suspended. Now, obviously I'm close to the situation and the team I cover, but I've talked to a lot of people, including those who aren't even around the team. They were surprised it was upheld as a major, right? Because was it interference? It absolutely was. Barkov, as we go back and look at it, never touched the puck. So it's an interference call. I get it. But in that instant, if you're Brandon Hagel, you can't tell if that was McDonough that touched the puck or if it was Hagel that touched the puck, right? And maybe he has to be more wary of that and pull back. This is playoff hockey. If you pull back on a hit like that, all of a sudden it's a different type of conversation. Go, well, why didn't you finish your check there, right? Because if you look at the angle Hagel's coming in at, both McDonough and Barkov's sticks are around the puck. And it happened to be McDonough that poked it around. Now, it was a little late, and I think that's why it was interference. Obviously, the league thinks differently because he's going to get suspended. There's almost no way around this. I also think part of it is, too, and like the temperature rose significantly in last night's game. A lot of the chirping, a lot of the talking, a lot of stuff going on. At one point, Hagel was basically challenging the entire Florida bench after Verhaeghe delivered a boarding call, I think on point. I forget who it was that he hit. So that temperature rose. So I don't wonder, too, if this is the league's way of trying to turn down temperature in a series that it's right there on the surface. One play could really spark something that maybe the league doesn't want to see. So maybe this is their way of trying to turn the temperature down on this too. But either way, Hagel's going to get suspended. I thought it was definitely a penalty after looking at it on review. I was surprised it held up as a major. So you can imagine my surprise when I saw this morning that he's going to get a hearing.
Erik, appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this. You can find his coverage, lightninginsider.com. Enjoy the rest of the series.
All right. Be well, boys. Thanks.
Always appreciate Erik giving us some time on the show. Frank, your thoughts? Like, I'll be honest, I'm usually not one who sits here and goes like, rah, old school hockey. I felt like a 5-minute major for interference was enough. I was also surprised to see a hearing.
I'm not. He's not even close to the puck. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can't absolutely smoke a guy and watch the carnage with his head and think that that's an acceptable play. Like, I think it's one playoff game. I do.
One playoff game. Yeah, equivalent to a 2-game suspension in the regular season. The 5-minute major, by the way, killed off by the Tampa Bay Lightning. I was sitting there going like, hey, that might be a little bit of like a turning point for them, avoiding giving up the dagger goal in that situation. Obviously didn't end up coming to fruition there. All right, the other Ask DFO we got over in the YouTube chat was just on the heels of that conversation about how good the Cats are looking here. Someone wanted to know what's the biggest threat to Florida in the East now that you've seen a couple of playoff games from some other contenders.
Biggest threat in the East to the Florida Panthers is the Toronto Maple Leafs, without a doubt. That is going to be a huge round 2 series because I think whoever wins that is going to the Stanley Cup.
All right, let's get to our daily bets for the day, brought to you by Bet365. Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you. From game props, player props, totals, and money line, you can even bet on futures like series winners and, of course, the Stanley Cup champion. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, must be 19 or older. Honestly, kind of similar vibes to yesterday where I don't have a great read on a money line anywhere, but I do like 2 player props. First off, Leon Draisaitl, 2+ points. It's a very nice +135. I think the Oilers, even if they don't win or if they're trailing in this game, they are going to be emptying the clip and playing 29 and 97 a whole bunch. So I like going with Draisaitl to get 2 points. And Juraj Slafkovsky has 9 shots through 2 games, and you're getting 3+ shots on goal for game 3 at +180. It is very, very juicy. Love that spot for Slafkovsky as the series shifts to the Bell Center, which Frank should be absolutely rocking tonight.
Yeah, it will be. And Alexi Protas seems to be a full participant in morning skate today for the Caps. So keep an eye on him rejoining the lineup. I just don't know how I feel about the shot prop because the Canadians had 12 shots on goal total as a team through the first 2 periods the other night. 3 in one game from one guy. It just feels like a lot. I don't know why.
But he had, like, Slafkovsky has 9 of them through 2 games. Like, if anyone's ripping it, it's him. All right, let's wrap up with a little bit of garbage time. One of the great stories of these playoffs has obviously been Gabe Landeskog returning for the Avalanche, and he was mic'd up for his first game back. It's about a minute and a bit, but it's also good. Wanted to give it a listen.
Okay. Waiting for this, boys. A long time. Coming up a bit. I like this. What's up, old man?
Welcome back, big fella.
Thank you. Good to be back. Yeah, here we go. You're still around?
Are you surprised that I'm still in the
You're
league?
still around? I missed it.
Told me that you can't believe that I'm still
Thank
in the
you.
league. That's the first thing
Good
he
to see you,
said to
John.
me.
Hey, good to see you, man. Glad you're
I said,
healthy.
I can't believe you're still in the league, he
I
said.
skated by me. He
It's not
called me
nice.
an old fart.
Yeah, this guy's old. I'm even close to 33 now. You can't call me kid anymore. 32, turning 33.
How about 50 for me?
Is that what you are?
Amen. 10 more years.
At least. Good to see you.
Frank, that's a good little look into to what life's like on the ice in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the funny part is a lot of people think that like the dialogue between player and referee is always like so heated or filled with chirps. Like a lot of it is just like nonsense conversation like this, where we'll talk about a whole ton of different things. Like, hey, did you see, whatever, talk about baseball or football earlier in the season, and they'll talk about a restaurant, or, hey, going to this place for beer. Like it's way more congenial than you think. Not to say that it doesn't get heated, but there's like 2.5 hours to fill. Like it can't all be everyone jumping down each other's throats. And that's why, there's a real bond between everyone that's on that ice surface. Everyone shares that same, not just risk, but also trust that, what is said there too stays there. And that part is pretty fascinating to hear, some guys peel back the layer on that after their careers. It's pretty awesome to see what happens.
Yeah, if you're one of the podcast listeners, the first little bit there with the big fellow was Landeskog and Jamie Benn. The second part with the expletive, that was former Av Mikko Rantanen giving it to his former captain. So good stuff there. This weekend, Frank, whole bunch of series on the line. Should be an excellent couple of days of Stanley Cup playoff hockey. That is a wrap on another week of Daily Faceoff Live. Enjoy the playoff action, and we'll be right back here on Monday, noon Eastern, to break it all down. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content. From daily live shows with Frank Seravalli, to analysis from former NHLers, to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.